Today, we're diving into a fascinating question. Why didn't Jesus write a scripture for us? He was well educated and certainly knew how to read and write. So, let's explore this together. In the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verses 6 to 8, we find the only instance where Jesus is mentioned as writing. Here, he encounters a woman accused of adultery. The Pharisees challenge him, hoping to trap him in his words. But Jesus stoops down and writes on the ground with his finger. Though we don't know what he wrote, this act itself speaks volumes about his wisdom and approach to teaching. Jesus was more than just a teacher. He was the living Word. His mission wasn't to produce texts, but to transform lives through his words and miracles. He taught in parables and sermons, emphasizing that his message was meant to be lived out in love and obedience. Let's step back in time to the era when Jesus lived. In the first century, Jewish society was deeply rooted in oral traditions. Education was primarily verbal, and memorization of texts, laws, and teachings was common practice. Writing materials were scarce and expensive, making oral transmission the most accessible and widespread means of communication. The rabbis of the time were masters of this oral tradition, often teaching in synagogues and public spaces where their words could reach many ears. Jesus, being a rabbi himself, followed this custom. His sermons and teachings were designed to be memorable and impactful, ensuring they would be passed down through generations even before they were recorded in writing. As Christianity spread, the need for written accounts grew, leading to the Gospels we have today. These texts were composed based on the oral testimonies of those who had witnessed Jesus' life firsthand. This transition from spoken word to written scripture marked a significant moment in religious history. After Jesus' ascension, his disciples carried on his legacy. They shared his teachings orally, which was a powerful method in a predominantly illiterate society. These oral accounts laid the foundation for the written Gospels, penned by those who were eyewitnesses or close to them. In understanding why Jesus didn't write scripture, it's important to consider the broader cultural context of his time. Jesus lived in a society where storytelling was not just a form of entertainment, but a means of preserving history, laws, and moral lessons. The Jewish people placed great emphasis on the oral transmission of the Torah and other sacred texts. Religious practices were communal, with families and communities gathering to observe rituals and festivals together. This communal aspect of faith meant that teachings were shared in groups, discussed among peers, and debated by scholars in public forums. Jesus' ministry capitalized on this cultural backdrop. He often taught in parables, which were short, memorable stories with moral or spiritual lessons. These parables were designed to be easily retained and shared among people, fitting perfectly into the oral culture of the time. Moreover, Jesus' actions, his miracles, his compassion for the marginalized, and his challenges to the religious authorities spoke as loudly as his words. These actions were witnessed by many and became stories told and retold, further solidifying his teachings in the collective memory of his followers. In Jewish culture, oral tradition was highly valued. It was a way to ensure teachings were not just heard but internalized. Jesus' words were meant to be remembered and passed down through storytelling, which had a profound impact on his followers. In conclusion, while Jesus didn't leave behind written scriptures himself, his teachings have been preserved through the Gospels and the lives of his followers. It's a testament to the power of his message that it continues to resonate with us today.